For the first time in over 40 years, Formula One is racing in Las Vegas. Yes, the entertainment capital of the world. It's our third race in the US this year. We're here in the city that never sleeps and poised ahead of a historic weekend for our sport. It's time. Welcome to the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend warm-up. And a big warm welcome to the paddock for the very first time here at the Las Vegas Grand Prix to Will Buxton, Lawrence Barretto and James Hinchcliffe alongside me. Guys, it's here, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Hinch, how are you doing?
I think everyone's a little tired. You know, the schedule here is pretty unique, but at the same time, everyone's really amped up. I think everyone's super excited to see what that first on-track session is going to be like. We've had the opening ceremonies, which were awesome. So, I mean, I hate to say it, this is Vegas, baby.
Look at it behind us as well. The skyline is just stunning. The sphere just over our shoulders here as well. Lawrence, jet lag is, I think, you know, we're feeling it, aren't we? Put it that way, but this is something special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. I was here 18 months ago when we announced the race, and to see the amount of work that they put in, this extraordinary building that we're standing on, the length of 3 American football fields, it's come up in 18 months, and then you look around and they've really put the Las Vegas stamp on it. You've got neon lights above the team garages. They kind of all in, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. And look, we're racing on the strip. Las Vegas is going to stop. It's going to stare at Formula One shutting down the strip, Will. My goodness.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah.
We haven't had a Grand Prix on the strip since 1964, but that was just a make-believe one in Viva Las Vegas when Elvis played Lucky Jackson. So I mean, look, as Hinch said, it's Vegas. It's weird, this place, right? But it's wonderful. Like it's incredible. And Hinch has said this because he's been here a couple of times before. He said this place is whatever you want it to be. And it just feels magic. I can't wait to see the cars flying down that famous strip at over 200 miles an hour. A lot of the drivers we were talking to today said, look, when they first saw the layout for the track, they thought, it doesn't look that exciting. And yet every one of them who's driven it on the sim says, this is going to be fast. And it's going to be really tricky out there. So, yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Super fast, and then some pretty low-speed corners as well. So it's going to be a challenge. I've heard Vegas described as an adult Disneyland before. I think it's pretty much living up to that. And look, Hinch, we're talking about a brand new track and new opportunities, and indeed weather as well. We're seeing rain here. It doesn't often rain in Vegas, but of course it rains as we're doing weekend warm-up. But just how challenging is this for drivers, strategists alike to get this right?
It's massively difficult. And I mean, going to any new circuit's a huge challenge. You don't have that historical data to rely on. But when it's a temporary circuit, even more so. You can't come out to the event, you know, you can go out to a permanent track weeks, months in advance, look at the surface, look at corner geometries, kind of sort of things like that. When the track wasn't built until, you know, a few days ago, you don't have that luxury. So from the driver's perspective, you're spending time on the sim. You're at the mercy of how accurate your sim is. From the engineer's perspective, it's probably even a bigger challenge because those small little details of things like what's the surface like, what's the curbing like, where are bumps on the racetrack, that's going to affect car setup and the engineer's approach even more so than the drivers. Drivers can adapt very quickly to that stuff, but these cars are so complicated, so much goes into the pre-event sim work that a little bit of error on that can really throw them off. So this is going to be fascinating to watch FP1 to see kind of who got it right and who's really struggling.
Yeah, and I guess bumps, curbs and the like, you know, how this track actually behaves and reacts to the cars out there is something that you can't quite replicate on the sim. Well, at least we've got 3 practice sessions though for our drivers to get this right.
Yeah, and sort of listening to some of the teams today, they said that having done the track walk, there's 2 things that's really caught them by surprise. One is that the curbs don't look as severe as they were expecting them to. They think they'll be able to ride those pretty easy. They look great.
Really cool.
Very, very sort of Vegas with the cards and the decks on them. The other one is how slippery the surface looks like it is, particularly on the parts of the track that they've completely resurfaced, the bitumen rising to the surface, meaning that if it does rain like this, it's going to be incredibly slippery. I know there's been a lot of talk about the low temperatures. That doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, but it's the bitumen that's risen to the surface on the new asphalt, and the fact those curbs, you really can drive them. So yeah, I can't wait to get out there. But as Hinch says, you know, you walk down the strip and you see the bits that have been resurfaced. There's a lot of bumps, a lot of kind of, not undulation up and down, it's flat, but just where the cars, like in Monaco, you know, there's that big bump on the run down to Mirabeau that everybody tries to get around. Where are they going to find those bumps here?
There are so many unknowns, a lot of jeopardy heading in to this weekend, our penultimate race of the 2023 season. But for now, we're going to throw it back to Brazil. And Lawrence Barretto wasn't in Brazil. You are back from Australia. You must be all over the place with your body clock, going
Oddly,
from
I'm
Australia
all right.
to here.
I don't really get it, but I'm fine.
Wow, an elite.
Yeah.
Athlete is Lawrence Barretto.
Well, maybe we should all fly from Australia. That's what we should do before Vegas every year. We'll get on the time
Australia
zone.
back to back with Vegas.
Okay,
We'll have you to thank for that with the calendar in
That's
2025.
an interesting calendar, we'll see. But for now, Lawrence Barretto is tasked with his 60-minute. That would be
No,
something.
it won't take me that long, don't worry.
60
That's my one. That's my one.
That's
60
the Will
minutes.
Buxton version. 60-second recap of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Lawrence, take it away.
Well, I thought it was a fascinating race, even though I wasn't there. And there was drama right before the start with Charles Leclerc crashing into the barriers. Didn't even get to take the start. He was blaming a hydraulics issue, or what he thought was a hydraulics issue. When they finally got going, Max Verstappen led away. And really, it was Lando Norris that caught everyone's attention because he went from P6 to P2. But there was drama just behind. Hulkenberg squeezed Albon, who then squeezed Magnussen. That caused a collision that caused a load of debris out on track. I think Oscar Piastri and Daniel Ricciardo were kind of involved in that debris flying around. So that was a red flag. When they got going again, Lando did attack Max into turn 1. Max had it under control, and from there on he kind of controlled the Grand Prix, and we kind of lost him into the ether like we have done many times over the course of this year. There was interesting battles further back. Fernando Alonso up in P3 after a great qualifying slot. He thought he'd lost that podium when Checo got him right on the penultimate lap, but then Fernando got him back and he completed the podium behind Lando and Max. I'm trying to think, I was doing so well then, but because Will's getting very excited then, but I was doing really well. But difficult day for Ferrari. Sainz was in P8. Tsunoda got some points in P9. Checo P4. There we go.
And Mercedes, also a tricky day.
Yes,
Russell retirement,
that's true.
But actually a really
and
good
Lewis
effort.
down in P8, wasn't he? Or something like that.
Yeah, really tough day for Mercedes. Decent effort. Well done,
Thanks.
Lawrence. You
Thanks.
were really in control of it for that time, and then suddenly you just kept going. And I thought, just stop. You've done it.
Dusting
You've
out
done
the
it,
cobwebs.
That was it.
I like marking your own homework. I've done really well here. I really enjoyed that as well. Good stuff, though. Look, let's talk about Red Bull. Hinch, I'll come to you now. Max Verstappen once again in a league of his own last time out. And just when we thought, oh my goodness, we've got a sniff of a fight here with Lando right up his gearbox, he took a second out of him in that next lap. That's how much he is in control of what he's doing out there.
Yeah, and part of it is just how you have to control tires, especially at a track as abrasive as Interlagos. You had Lando almost able to match Max lap for lap. Even Max admitted this for most of the stint. Those last sort of 10 laps of his stint, though, that's where the Red Bull is just taking care of its tires. Max able to pull out that gap because he admitted he didn't drive a single lap pushing flat out of the entire Grand Prix. You're just trying to take care of those tires. That's how sensitive it was. But it was still an honest effort from Lando. You think about 8 seconds. I know that's an eternity in motorsports, but that was with no safety cars after that, first lap red flag. We've seen him pull out 15 seconds in half a race before after mid-race safety cars or red flags. So I do think there's genuine progress there. The McLarens are getting so close. Lando is doing such a good job. But, Max is still just in a league of his own.
8 seconds is not 53 thousandths, is it? And that was the gap between Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez over the line. Absolute blockbuster finish. And for Sergio Perez, though, a really good buffer over Lewis Hamilton, as you say, in P8. That means that Lewis has to outscore Perez by 7 points here. Lawrence, I'm about to call you Lewis then. See, the jet lag is real and truly kicking in now. Sergio Perez is very much more secure in that P2 position now, isn't he?
Yeah, very much so. I think he was frustrated, obviously, not to get on the podium, and that would have really done wonders for his confidence. But ultimately, he knows he needs to get P2 in the championship. He's got a contract for next year, but it's more a confidence thing from his side. But also, the team will be pretty annoyed with him if he doesn't manage to get Red Bull's first 1-2 that they've ever got. So it kind of means more to him to get P2 and kind of give that safety net, I think, going forward.
And both drivers there, Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez, needing that podium, not just a want for them, as Checo Perez will have to wait perhaps another race or so to get it. How do you think this track will suit the Red Bulls here?
It's impossible to say. I was talking to Max earlier, and he said, look, they've been focused on it. They don't know if it's going to be a Singapore or every other track of the year for them. This truly is a step into the unknown for everybody. As Hinch said, you can get your sim data, but it's, it is a step into the unknown, because until you get out there on this track, you don't know if that data actually correlates to what's out there on the track. They will be playing around with their wing levels in FP1. They're pretty much all set up from what I've seen in the pit lane on low downforce spec here. But is that what they need? How much of a compromise are they going to have to make? We just don't know. Are they going to be the target team? Absolutely. They always are. But we're not going to know until they get out there on track whether this is every track or whether this is Singapore.
Absolutely. And I guess, look, on paper, straight line speed, you think of Red Bull, you think of Williams, but we absolutely do not know. That's the fun of this Las Vegas Grand Prix. Let's hear now from our reigning world champion, Max Verstappen.
Vegas, there's been so much promotion, so much hype, and now we're here. Big opening party. How does it feel to be in this place, to be in this city, ready for this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I just tried to approach it as another Grand Prix. I mean, you always want to do the best you can, once you sit in the car. And besides that, I think what we, of course, have to focus on is just learning the track, learning the grip, and of course, try to set up the car in the best possible way.
How difficult is that? Because obviously we know you have the simulators and you can run it through that, but then you arrive out here, the track surface might be different, the curbs might be different than you're expecting.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do the best we can, but I do think that... we just focus a bit on learning the track, trying some different wing levels, but there's only so much that you can do.
There's only really been one track this year that didn't suit you guys, and we know all about that. How do you feel for this weekend? What's the team predicting?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good, but I really don't know where we're going to be at, how quick we're going to be or if we're struggling or not. So I think that's also the beautiful thing that, it's a new track for everyone, and I guess that's the exciting part of it.
Good to hear the thoughts of Max Verstappen. Now, moving on to Aston Martin, and what a resurgence it was, Hinch. From, a double DNF in Mexico to a P3 and a P5. Fernando Alonso back on the podium for the first time since Zandvoort. It was quite the weekend.
It really was, and it wasn't just, look, the qualifying that put them up there on the grid, you could say was maybe a little bit hit or miss, a little bit questionable, just in terms of the timing. They really nailed it on Friday. And then you watch the sprint race, poor qualifying for the sprint shootout, but then both of the Astons really moved up through the field. So that gave you an idea that the race pace was actually quite genuine. And it's so funny, it's not just the double DNF in Mexico. They were slow. I mean, they weren't just unreliable. They had a bad weekend. So to turn it around that dramatically in that short a period of time, they're obviously still learning a lot about these new upgrades, this new package, but incredible performance from Fernando. That last 5-lap battle with Checo was unreal and just shows you why he's so good. That experience coming through, but then also props to Lance. He held his own, had a solid Grand Prix. It was kind of quiet, but a quiet run up to a top 5. It's a great result. Yeah,
it was a special battle, wasn't it, between Checo and Alonso. Lawrence, I'm going to ask how you think they'll fare here, and I know you're going to tell me we don't know because we've got no data. But judging on how they managed to come through on race pace last time out, we saw a bit of straight line speed from them as well. Do you think they'll fare well here?
Well, I asked that question to Tom McCulloch earlier today, and he obviously said, I don't know, because obviously all the teams will be scratching their head after the track walk and stuff.
Yeah.
I think they did go around, and obviously we were talking about earlier in the office about how important track walks were around here, just to see how different it is maybe to their simulations, and they learned a lot from walking around there, from the curbs that Will's mentioned as well. I think they've taken a lot of confidence in the fact that they've got a car that I think they know they haven't always understood how to get the most out of it. And so because they had such a smooth weekend in Brazil, on a sprint weekend where they only had one practice session, that's given them the hope that when they come here with 3 practice sessions, they can maybe try a few more things, because they're still trying to learn why they were so slow in Mexico, why they were a bit off colour in Austin as well, and not get carried away by that performance that they did in Brazil. So I think they are kind of reining it in a little bit and not expecting maybe that kind of performance here. But I do think that they are starting to get more learnings for they can have a better weekend all round here.
Yeah, for sure. And Will, perversely, Mercedes, a torrid weekend, straight line speed, absolutely nowhere. I mean, Toto Wolff saying it was their worst weekend in 13 years. Where do they go from there?
It's crazy, isn't it? Because you look back one year and Brazil was the one silver lining on an otherwise cloudy season for them, and was pretty much one of the major reasons why they decided to stick with the concept of car that's caused them so many headaches this season. And it's the one place that the car really didn't work this year. So I think they'll breathe a sigh of relief when they chuck that car in the skip at the end of the season. As for why it went wrong, both the drivers have said, we know. We weren't giving around too much about it, but they said, we know exactly why it went wrong. We know exactly where we went wrong and why the car didn't work. So I guess we have to wait and see whether that will play out this weekend here in Vegas, or whether it's something they're stuck with for the final 2 races.
We shall see. Let's hear now from George Russell.
Hey George, the team's performance in Austin and Mexico looked like you were making some progress, and just a bit of an odd weekend, I guess, in Brazil. Do you have some answers though for what went wrong?
Yeah, we definitely have some answers, and
we've got a number of things that we can put down to our poor performance in Brazil. But this is the nature of a sprint race weekend. If you get it right, you're on a good course and you're in for a successful weekend. But if you get it wrong, you've got no opportunity to make amends. And we were kind of trapped within our own mistakes, and that was a grueling weekend. And it shows how sensitive everything is. But we're confident we're not going to fall into that same trap, especially this weekend.
Well, how are you kind of feeling about this weekend when, especially on a new track where you don't know, you kind of need to hit the ground running, don't you, to make sure you don't get lost?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible. The track's going to be evolving. You've got cars driving on the track right now, dropping oil, dust down. It's going to be very greasy, and it's going to evolve a lot as the weekend progresses. So you're going to have to always be forward thinking. And now it's raining currently. It's going to throw a spanner in the works for everybody. So the fact is, nobody knows how it's going to pan out.
We shall see how Mercedes fare this weekend, but they will want to turn things around very quickly after a disappointing weekend last time out in Sao Paulo. Hinch, Ferrari, they're just 20 points behind Mercedes, chasing them down for P2 in the championship. I know no team will want P2. Of course, they'll want to be champions, but if you can't be champion, you want to be the next best, right? How will Ferrari go here?
Yeah, and no one can be champions other than Red Bull. That's been done and dusted for a minute. But and you got to think, Charles Leclerc not even able to take the start in Brazil from P2 with both Mercedes having a bad day. That could have been almost 20 points to the good for Ferrari right there. So no doubt ruining that. But you look back to Monza. This is the kind of track that people are sort of relating to Monza with the high speed straightaways, low speed corners. Ferrari fared pretty well. Qualified on pole. They were third and fourth, I think, in the race. So you have to think it's going to be strong. Lower temperatures. We know how good they are over a lap. They can really generate that tire temp over one lap, I think even better than the Red Bull. And so I think there's a good chance that they're going to be very serious contenders for pole here. Track position's always key in these races, so this could be a very strong weekend for them and really close that battle up even more in constructors.
And looking at tyres, obviously, Ferrari, tyre deg has long been a thorn in their side for this season, but potentially not being able to turn the tyres on is going to be more of an issue here, certainly during the race and on different compounds as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like they have learnt lessons as the season's gone on and understanding why they can't generate that tyre temperature when it comes to the race, or at least keeping the temperature of the tyres in the right window. Like Hinch was saying, I think that early phase of when they can get the temperature into the tyres really will bode well at the start of the race as well as in qualifying. And I think if they can keep both cars up towards the sharp end and kind of use both cars as a kind of attack on those around them, that could bode well for them.
Yeah, as you said, that initial bite, because what we've got to take into consideration here is, this is a street circuit with a potentially very slippery surface. You've got to think not just about the initial race start. You've got to think about the potential for red flags and standing restarts during the Grand Prix as well. That ability to immediately turn the tyres on, which would normally cause a little bit of overheating for them. It could be a real strength for Ferrari here this weekend. Both drivers keeping their cards close to their chest when I spoke to them today, but I think both with a little confidence. As you say, given that Monza was such a successful weekend for them, this really could be a Ferrari track. And Singapore as well.
How'd that go for them? I don't.
That was pretty good. It was all right. It's all right.
Yeah, it was okay. A win for Carlos Sainz, if you need to be reminded.
Of course.
The one race that Red Bull have not won this season. And indeed a win for Carlos Sainz in the Netflix Cup as well. F1 meets golf. Less successful for him in handling the trophy afterwards, but we won't dwell on that. And also I saw as well in the press conference, he mentioned that he'd missed the track walk because he wasn't quite sure what time it was. And we're talking about the offset schedules here and how difficult it's proving for us even knowing what day it is, and clearly for the drivers as well, Hinch.
Yeah, and that's a big one. I mean,
right?
It's tough. It's a tough thing to miss a track walk as a driver, any track. Now, if it's a Barcelona or a Bahrain where you've done thousands of laps, fine. Yeah. They've never seen this place. Never mind done a lap. He's never even walked a lap. So if you were going to pick one track walk to not miss all year, it's this one. It's going to be interesting.
And worth. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say quickly. The problem is they closed the track and then they open it up.
I was about to say this. Yeah.
So you can't go and make up for it. As soon as the track is open, the cars are on it, and you can't just go wandering about. And they are opening the track tonight, but it's only for testing. So the drivers, no one's allowed to run. We got an email. We're not allowed to go run and not allowed to walk. So I do think it's going to hurt him kind of going into the weekend.
Is that why you're not getting your running kit on now
yes,
to head out?
Why. That is
that's
why.
the
Yeah,
only sole reason we're not running tonight. Absolutely. Let's hear from Carlos Sainz's teammate, Charles Leclerc.
Tell me, Las Vegas, how is it coming here professionally rather than for party?
It feels very different for now. The last time I came here was to party. This weekend there are no parties planned. Maybe Saturday night if there's a win, but only if there's a win. So until Saturday we'll have to work hard in order to get that.
How tough is it to turn up to a new circuit, particularly a brand new street circuit where the asphalt's newly been laid, new curbs? Because surely you can't have all the data that you need to make an adequate sort of simulation.
Yeah, I love street tracks. So first of all, I cannot wait to be out on track tomorrow and to try this new street track. I've had quite a few laps on the simulator, but the amount of data are limited for now because we haven't done any real laps yet. But the ones I did virtually, I enjoyed. So I hope that it will fit our car as well, which on the paper should fit a bit more than the last few races. Which I hope will give us a great result coming Sunday.
How is it then to drive? How are you expecting this thing to drive? How complex is it? How tough is it? How fast is it?
I mean, honestly, it's nicer than what I thought when I looked the first time at the layouts. It looks like a big turnaround and doesn't look great at first. But then when you drive it, it's actually quite interesting, and the way the corners are made is nice. There's lots of combined braking, which will make it quite difficult for front lockups. But it's going to be interesting.
Well, it could be Ferrari's weekend. Who knows? That's very much going to be the words of the weekend, is it? We don't know until we see cars out there in three free practice sessions this weekend. Moving on to McLaren, and it has been 6 P2s for Lando Norris in 11 races. Well, he is in undeniably good form, not quite yet securing that race win that has so far eluded him, but he's got to be one that you've got your eye on for the weekend.
Always. In this second half of the season, McLaren have proved to be absolutely stunning, and the noise coming out of McLaren right now is the confidence they're taking through to 2024 that they can make another similar sized step, as we're hearing that Red Bull are going to take a big risk and completely change the concept of their car going into next year, which could be a huge step. Whether that's forwards or backwards, no one knows. No one knows. That's the phrase of the weekend, isn't it? I mean, come on, brilliant, just absolutely. I know you spoke to Oscar earlier today, though. So how are they feeling?
Yeah, I think Oscar's had 3 races where he just has been a little bit off colour for various reasons. A lot of it not his own fault. So I think there's disappointment there, but then ultimate confidence because that car is the second fastest on the grid. So he knows if he can just have a clean weekend. He was happy that he's come to a track where everyone doesn't know the circuit.
Yeah.
So it's not just him, and he knows that if he feels comfortable in the car, he's hoping he can get up to speed pretty quickly. And you know what, Lando, you mentioned that 6 podiums. I think Lando's kind of got the edge now on Oscar when there was a big chunk of time this season where they were very close. I think Lando's going to be very happy, and Oscar's going to want to hit back. And this seems like a good weekend for him to try and do that.
Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Moving to Alpine, and sort of, I guess, their lack of straight line speed or top end speed has been a bit of a talking point for them this season. We've got 2 big straights here, Hinch. It could be a bit of an issue.
2 big straights, curbs, which they don't traditionally like. It could definitely be a tough one. Again, you come in with all the unknowns that you already have, but a few of the things you do know right off the top. Straight line speed is poor, curb riding is poor. Those are going to be 2 important factors here, so it could be a tough weekend for them. Yeah,
it could be. Lots of their investors will be here, though, Lawrence. They're going to have some eyes on them here in sort of star-studded Hollywood vibes that Las Vegas will bring.
Yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds is here, Patrick Mahomes is here. We obviously had Rory at in Aston with Antti Joshua. A lot of eyes on them, but I do think there is a feeling inside that team that this season's kind of gone. Next season's not gone, but it's going to be a transitional year, and they're probably looking much more forward because they know where they're at and they know what kind of steps they need to make to rejoin that kind of front pack, and they've just got a lot of work to do.
I've got to say, Esteban's helmet this weekend is incredible. It's a Deadpool helmet.
Deadpool, yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah. And he said he showed it to Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Reynolds was so excited about it that Esteban almost started crying. He was just like, I was so chuffed. But he did say the team went and tested at Monza after the race, and they hope that's helped them to just turn the corner a little bit on why they were so poor that weekend. So not confident, but less unconfident. I'm
Encouraged?
tired.
Good word.
Thanks, mate. I used my word.
And on the other side of the garage, Pierre Gasly is saying he had one of the best weekends of the season in Brazil, climbing through the field into the points as well. Well, one man who's absolutely delighted to be here, I think we should kind of credit the fact we are here to him, perhaps, it's Daniel Ricciardo. Let's hear from him.
Daniel, how pleased are you to be back in the States? I know it's a place that you like being in here, and Vegas must be a pretty special place for you to be as well.
It's cool. It's always cool, of course. I mean, being in Vegas, I think being in Vegas sober is already unique. But yeah, just obviously that clip circulated of me mentioning it, I think in 2017. But now that and again, I said it, but a lot of people put in a lot of work to make this happen. I did nothing. But yeah, knowing that we're here, 6 years later, and we're not somewhere in the outside, outskirts of Vegas. We are on the Strip. I don't know. It's definitely surreal. Yeah, I feel like we're living in a movie.
Pretty cool movie that you're the star of the show.
Yeah, put it this way. I'm very glad I'm here to experience this for the first time. Obviously, I thought I'd have the whole year off racing, but it was half a year, and I'm glad I'm here for the first one. I think it's going to be pretty special.
What do you think is possible this weekend? Because I feel like you're on an upward trajectory. I know the result wasn't there, but your lap times look good for what I could see in Brazil, and it just feels like you're finding your feet quite quickly. Even on a new track, you optimistic that the car's in good shape?
It's definitely been feeling good. It's definitely the last few weekends, it's felt like a much more competitive car, a points car. Look, I think we're going to get so many challenges here with the new circuit. Obviously, none of us we've done simulator, but even there, it's hard. Grip levels, you don't really know. It seems like it's quite low grip, having a bit of a feel and hearing some reports. So I think it's going to be a challenge. Of course, every race is a challenge. I think this one even more so, learning a new track and on maybe very slippery conditions with lots of walls. But that's where I would, lean on a little bit of hopefully my maturity and some experience, and yeah, just kind of have a bit of a patient approach. Starting off, FP1, and I might just get them to fuel the car, and I'll just be circulating for a whole hour. I'll just stay out there and just log the laps, log the data.
He is delighted to be here, Lawrence, isn't he? Daniel Ricciardo just beaming. This is his playground, isn't it, really?
He loves the States. Obviously, he's going to love Vegas. Obviously, going to love the fact they're here after he said we should come back here all those years ago. But he's happy, mostly, I think, because he's got to grips with this car, and he knows it's a fast enough car to get points. And I know we didn't see that in Brazil, but if you're looking at his lap times, he was fast. Obviously, out of the race, a lap down. But he's come here, kind of a type of track that he knows he's going to have the confidence here behind the wheel of that AlphaTauri, and they're fighting for P7 in the Constructors' Championship. They've got a really good shot, I think, of nailing that, having been bottom of the championship for most of this season. Yuki's performing well as well, got a load of points in Brazil, so I think at the moment that kind of lineup is dovetailing nicely, and they come here hopeful to get both cars into Q3 and both cars scoring points. I know we don't know what anyone's going to do, but that's what they're hoping for based on their current form.
There is a big battle for P7 at the moment. 7 points is the gap between Williams and AlphaTauri, who are having somewhat of a resurgence. Williams, straight line speed. We've very much been enjoying that spectacle throughout the course of this year. Are we going to see it again here, Hinch? Don't say I don't know.
There's no reason not to see it. There's no reason not to see it. It's not an I don't know. I expect that to be true. Again, going back to Monza, Albon firmly in the points. Logan Sargent's been doing better, but all points but one that team have been on Alex's back. So when you've got both AlphaTauris performing really well and scoring points, pressure's definitely on Alex. He's got to perform here, because if he can just score a couple points, that gives him a really nice buffer heading into the final race to keep that 7th place. So I do think Williams will be quick here. As long as they run a mistake-free race, points are definitely on the cards, and it sets them up really nicely for the end of the season.
A 3rd home race as well for Logan Sargent. When you think about the pressure and sort of the magnitude that comes with that, and he's in his rookie year at a brand new track, but we're all at a brand new track. Will, Alfa Romeo, double DNF last time out, but obviously if we're comparing this track to others, Monza is the one that springs to mind, and Bottas did clinch a point there.
He did.
There's perhaps hope, maybe?
Yeah, I think a little bit of hope. Valtteri, again, I spoke to him earlier today. He's feeling pretty good coming into this weekend. Pretty lucky if you're staying in that hotel over there right now. What time?
You can hear the music behind us here. It's
solid midnight. feeling good. And also, he's just released a calendar,
yes.
naked calendar.
Yes. Okay.
All for charity for Movember, and so far it's raised €50,000, I think. So it's doing really, really well. So yes. And Haas as well. You know, we've got to talk about Haas. They've brought 2 different car specs this weekend. They gave the drivers free choice. Said you prefer the upgrade or do you want the old car. Hulkenberg's got the old car. Kev's got the new one. So yeah, and that, you know, those last few places, it's a couple of points in it between them. 4 points, I think.
Yeah.
So all to play for in these final 2 races.
Yeah, every point truly matters. And I'm absolutely loving, of course, Haas, a home race for them as well. And they have written on their garage, welcome to fabulous Haas Vegas. I really enjoyed that.
That could have gone in
Do you know what? I could have had that. I could have had that.
Oh, God.
That could have been one of mine. Back in the day, you know.
Let's not go back there, shall we?
We don't want to revisit that.
Let's not.
It's prediction time. Let's do
Yay!
this. Let's do this. Okay, I've not thought about this at all. Let's start with Will Buxton. Your
Right.
predictions for the podium.
Podium predictions will be, let's go. Actually, I saw online during the week, someone's actually done an entire rundown of all our predictions for the season, and I believe I'm bottom. I think I've got
I'm top.
I've got 17% or something for the year. So let's go for a Lando
You're
Norris
top,
win.
Apparently. Yeah, making up for F1 fantasy for sure.
Lando win, Max second, and Alex Albon P3
that's a
with an
podium.
absolute
Love
Hail
that.
Mary pit stop on the last lap of the race.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a podium. Okay, Lawrence, beat that.
I'm not going to be able to go anywhere near extreme as that. I'm going to say Max win, but I think Ferrari are going to be strong here, so I think it's going to be a Charles and Carlos completing the podium.
Whoa.
Nice.
It's exactly what I was going to
Sorry.
exactly what I was going to say. So I'll stick to Charles P2, and I'll throw in Piastri for P3.
A
Who's winning?
Piastri
Who's
podium.
P1?
Wow.
Do you ask that question anymore?
Valtteri, obviously.
I am going to say a Max Verstappen win. Let's call it now. I'm going to say a Lando Norris P2 and a Fernando Alonso P3.
Oh,
I think
there we go.
Aston
I feel like
Martin
I've
are on the
seen
up.
this one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's last weekend.
That's Brazil.
That was yeah, okay. That was not original.
Go to bed, Laura.
Yeah, it's time for us all to go to sleep. Thank you all very much. Let's take a look at how this weekend shapes up. And the schedule is pretty crazy. Okay, starting on Thursday evening, like I said, it's all a bit different here in Las Vegas, and it may be different where you are in the world as well. 8:15 will be on air building up to FP1 starting at 8:30, and then we are on air at 1:45 for free practice 2, starting at midnight, finishing at 1 a.m. here in Las Vegas. And we'll have all of the analysis after the practice sessions as well. Moving into Friday night into Saturday morning, we have FP3 starting on air once again at 8:15 for an 8:30 start to our 3rd hour of running. And then our pre-qualifying show, that is at 11:30, with qualifying starting here in Las Vegas at midnight, the post-qualifying show coming just afterwards. And then on to race day. Our pre-race show will be starting at 9 p.m. here in Vegas, with the race at 10 p.m. The latest a Formula One race has ever begun. The post-race show will be coming immediately after the podium. And that is that, standing here in front of this stunning Las Vegas skyline with the sphere resplendent behind us, music blaring. This is shaping up to be one hell of a weekend and one hell of a show. You do not want to miss this, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. We will see you tomorrow for our first 2 hours of practice.
I'm extremely excited for Vegas.
This is going to be the best race of all time.
Vegas is going to be huge.
Things are gonna get pretty crazy.
Did you really think I was going to miss this? Come on, it's Vegas, baby.